And welcome to another live reading. Today I'm going to be reading from Jordan's Arrow, Chapter 1. And once again, I do feel obligated to give a spoiler warning. If you have not read Jordan's World yet, there will be spoilers here a little bit. So again, I'm going to be reading from Chapter 1. Oh, coffee. Chapter 1, Ceremony. He watched the Mokta mountain village from the safety of a tree, hidden between the leaves, branches, and the darkening twilight sky. Like a Zalabeast, he bided his time patiently. There seemed to be more of these people than he had ever seen previously. They were gathering together for some kind of festival or ritual. The smell of freshly baked delicacies and scented candles filled the air and whetted his appetite. A bird suddenly left its nest, rustling what seemed to be the entire tree, startling him. He did his best not to cry out or move, hoping the creature hadn't revealed his location. For many long seconds he held his breath, and sweat fell in single beads from his brow. His heart pounded ever more loudly in his chest. Footsteps. He heard them crashing through the spring grass, drawing closer to his position. Distinct from any other motion nearby, they seemed deliberate. Even if they get close, they cannot see me. The sounds ceased, and then a woman cleared her throat. "Are you going to be late to your own birthday party, Arrow?" Jordan said in the Mokta language. "How do you find me, Gemta?" Arrow released an exasperated breath. "You know I'm not going to tell you, right? Come down here, now." The young boy leaped from where he perched and landed like a cat 12 feet below on solid ground, a handful of paces from Jordan. She gave him a scolding stare, but in her heart was a deep love and admiration. He was an incredible blend of herself and her mate Bhopal. She believed her Arrow would grow up to be tall and athletic, just like him. Her son had her temperament, though, quick to any emotion, and he was as clever and stealthy as he was stubborn. His hair was a mixture of Mokta white and Snowfire blue. The scleras of his eyes were black, but his irises were the color of ice. His face was somewhat long like Jordan's, and he had her nose and lips. His skin had been light-colored at birth, but now resembled burnt sienna, deeper than Jordan's olive complexion, but lighter than Mokta red. They walked towards the center of the village. He was almost waist-high to Jordan, walking at her side in his animal-hide clothes, keeping perfect step with her long strides. She wore a full green ceremonial dress, which complemented how pregnant she was with her second child. Her slightly rounded cheeks were painted with traditional Mokta symbols in shades of red, yellow, and purple, while her rich blue hair, which she had grown to mid-back length, was flowing behind her. She wore a deep green headband with ice blue beads. She was also adorned in earrings embedded with red julep crystals. It was customary for Mokta of all tribes to honor not only the offspring, but their parents, when a child reached the ages of 5, 10, and finally 15, which was called the dawning time. "I see you found young Arrow," Chiefess Kitchenor chuckled. "And just in time, too. We were about to start without him." "Really, Chiefess?" Arrow spoke up, stunned. "Look around you, young one," Kitchenor instructed, appearing solemn. "Do you see all these people from your tribe?" Several dozen people surrounded them, and even more were present. They ranged from children younger than Arrow to the eldest Mokta, who was nearing 100 cycles. The boy nodded. "Yes, Chiefess. And more importantly, do you see all of these wonderful foods prepared to honor your 5th cycle of life?" 3 tables held an assortment of foods, one displaying desserts like berry and jam-filled spiced dainties and sweetbreads, another with various meats, and the last with grilled vegetables and creamy dipping sauces. The boy nodded again, contritely this time. Yes, Chiefess. Kitchenor let the moment linger a moment longer. Then she grabbed Arrow and pulled him into a hug. She and most of the people around them broke into laughter. Did you think I was being serious? How could we possibly start your celebration without you, boy? But Gemtabana, what you said. Relax, Arrow. Enjoy this time. It is for you, she interrupted, smiling widely as she released him. Now excuse your Gemtabana while I talk to the adults. Kitchenor stood up and put a steadying arm around her daughter-in-law, while she motioned to her approaching son, Bhopal. He wore a robe whose colors matched his mate's, and his cheeks were similarly painted, but instead with brown, blue, and green colors depicting fatherhood. Now we see where young Arrow's behavior comes from, Kitchenor announced, jesting, but not entirely. His father never much liked ceremonies either. That brought more laughs from those present. It also had the intended effect upon Bhopal, denting his pride to send him a message not to avoid the rituals. 6 cycles ago, these two made the wise decision to become mates while on a great and dangerous quest to find the Kital. They succeeded, Kitchenor declared loudly to everyone, and no sooner had they made it back to this village than Jordan learned she was expecting a child, their son. Now we congratulate the boy on achieving 5 successful cycles of life, and we praise his parents for how they have raised him. That brought cheers and whoops of joy from their fellow villagers. Normally, it was only the immediate and extended family who participated in birth celebrations, but since Arrow was the grandson of the chiefess and the son of the next chiefess, nearly the whole village's population turned out this day. Kitchenor waited for them to quiet down before she continued. We are also grateful and happy for the life which will soon join us, Kitchenor continued, gently stretching her hand before Jordan's abundant belly, eliciting more animated responses from those gathered. Now let us lift up and encourage this growing family tonight in a way they will always remember. Over time that night, Jordan lost track of who said what to her. She made sure to thank everyone for their kind words and for attending. She knew the importance of such social functions, but they made her feel awkward. It helped that Bhopal and Arrow were with her, because after standing so long in her condition, she was becoming exhausted. Finally, they had to assist her in sitting down in the softest spot she could find. Congratulations, Blue Hair, a voice boomed from behind her. Zaska, Jordan replied as she turned her head, elated to see her best friend walking towards her. Zaska was accompanied by Linsha, a mutual friend. Linsha was in her early 20s, a tall and proud huntress. She bore scars on her left cheek which extended across her nose, a reminder of a successful hunt against a very aggressive Sastan, which had also broken several of her ribs and her left leg. Do not stand up, Mama, you will hurt yourself, Zaska mused. My parents are watching my younger ones. They knew my daughter and I wanted to be here for you, and your growing family, as Chiefess said. It is true, Jordan, Linsha agreed. She was eager to see you. Thanks, Jordan replied. So, Zaska, you finally get to see me this huge with child. Happy? Jordan, I said I wanted to see you that way maybe 200, Jordan added. Times, Zaska completed her thought. I mean, it is true, I was disappointed that you did not, blossom as much with your son, but I suppose that was understandable. I was so sick and nervous with Arrow I could barely keep anything down. Linsha stood close by, shifting in place, her eyes gravitating between the two mothers and the ground. With a loud sigh, she stepped forward. You two make me afraid to take a mate and have any children, Linsha admitted. Between the stories of your symptoms and the way Zaska teases you for how fat I've gotten, Jordan insisted, extending her arms on either side of her stomach. How you have bloomed, Jordan, Zaska deflected, putting her palms together and separating them outward. It is truly marvelous. You are strange, Zaska, Linsha stared at her. She glanced briefly at Jordan, then back to Zaska. Why do you not tell her what you are really feeling? Zaska looked uncomfortable, even displaying a hint of fear in her eyes. Will you tell her, or should I? Lincha dared. Saska sighed. This is my reward for trusting you? I am your friend. This is what friends do. You know Jordan thinks you are making fun of her when you are not. Will one of you please make some sense? Jordan interjected. Saska took in a sharp breath before speaking, turning in Jordan's direction. You know how I also bloomed when I had Maska. She dropped her arms to her sides and bit her lip as she looked down. Even though you were sick and I felt bad for your suffering, I was jealous of how little weight you gained compared to me. However, I have been able to better share in your second pregnancy, Jordan. I may tease you now, but please forgive how I felt before. Saska's embarrassment was evident in her awkward attempt to smile. It noticeably contrasted with her sincere relief and regret. Lincha stood back and seemed content in her silence. Jordan looked at Saska for several moments, absorbing the fullness of her words. You are like my sister, Saska. I am happy you shared your heart with me about this, she asserted. There's nothing to forgive. She gave Saska a tender hug. Then she turned her gaze skyward and smiled, pondering something for a moment. Have you considered that maybe I am having twins like you did 2 cycles ago? No, it is one baby. I can tell, Saska insisted, holding up an index finger. Did you become a seer and not tell me? Jordan asked. Saska knows all, Lincha quipped, her arms stretched apart as she looked towards the sky, making Jordan giggle. Saska harumphed in semi-irritation. I do not have to read the stars to know this. I think you will give birth to a very healthy child. Thank you, Jordan responded. Saska rested her thumb and forefinger at her chin, looking contemplative. You have come far from the scared girl who I helped train, the one who thought she should wait 10 or 15 cycles before having any young ones of her own. You are never going to let me forget that, are you? Jordan muttered under her breath. Lincha slapped both of her own hips in satisfaction. Thank the twin stars, I'm not the only one who has not felt ready. Jordan looked thoughtfully at the younger hunter. She understood the woman's reluctance, but had hindsight to guide her now. I hope you will change your mind about taking a mate and having children someday, Lincha. It took some time, but I found someone who made all of the risks and changes worthwhile. Saska nodded in agreement. Well said. Maybe, Lincha replied shyly. Could be a while, but thank you. Now I should probably get some rest. May the stars light your dreams, Saska imparted. May the stars light your dreams, Lincha and Jordan repeated. As Lincha walked off, Jordan couldn't help but notice the younger woman's limp, which she was clearly compensating for. It drew attention to the physical pain she was obviously still enduring. I hope she feels better tomorrow, Saska added, prompting a nod from Jordan. She watched Jordan in the flickering torchlight and then put her arm around Jordan's shoulder and smiled. As active as you tend to be, Jordan, I think you will have the form of a huntress again in a cycle's time. I will never be a huntress again, though. No, Saska professed. You will be chiefess. Jordan nodded but attempted to change the subject. You and Raybon did a wonderful job with this dress. It is my mate who makes the clothes. I only design them. Well, your designs are flawless. I'm glad you like it. How goes your learning with Chiefess and the elders? Jordan winced at her friend's easy redirection of the discussion. Saska gave her a don't even try to dodge this look, so Jordan quickly relented. I have been taught the entire history of the Mokta Mountain, but I have only managed to commit about half of it to memory so far, Jordan replied. Chiefess has been letting me assist in her handling tribal matters like settling disputes and assigning common tasks among the villagers. Next week I will preside over the joining ritual of Kelav and Hazda. Saska seemed satisfied with Jordan's words. Your child is not due for what, another 30 moons? Arrow arrived early, but he was so active, almost hyper. This one is active, but seems more content. It is a girl, then. My daughter was the same way. This one will arrive when she is ready. Both of them watched meteorites stream across the sky, burning away harmlessly like sparks in the atmosphere. A few other villagers observed the stellar phenomena, but of those who still remained at the birthday celebration, most were engaged in socializing, eating, or both. The cold breeze made Jordan and Zaska both shiver and look at one another. Jordan could sense an unspoken question from her friend. "What is it?" Jordan asked. "I do not think you have aged one day in the last 6 cycles," Zaska replied, her expression one of fascination and curiosity. "Why do you say that?" Jordan retorted with some apprehension. "I have lived 29 cycles, and I look it. I know I am still young, but I have changed over time," Zaska answered. "I have lines on my face that were not there before and such." "That makes sense. Jordan, you have lived nearly 28 cycles and experienced all the same things, but your face has barely changed since the day Snowfire saved your life." "Chieftess may have been right. You could be immortal now." "I hope you are wrong." Zaska's confused expression showed that she neither agreed with nor understood Jordan's reaction. "Why? Living forever young, forever beautiful," Zaska continued. "Is that not an incredible gift?" "You think so? What is so incredible about it?" Jordan responded bitterly. "I have noticed the same things as you, how I have not aged. It worries me whenever I think about it." "I do not understand." Jordan simmered for a moment, then she released a breath through her nostrils. Her mood shifted from anger to sadness. "Why would you want to stay young but watch your mate and children grow old and die?" Jordan shared, on the verge of tears. "Then you would have to do the same with their children and grandchildren, all while you live on, still looking the same. I suppose I could find a new mate, have more children since I would be young, but that would make everything start all over again." "Jordan, I did not mean anything," Zaska replied softly. She looked wounded by her friend's anguish. "I can think of no greater curse than being immortal in a mortal world," Jordan added. "Perhaps that is why Snowfire became the way she is. Maybe she went insane from grief, losing everyone she had ever loved." "Jordan, forgive! This is your night of celebration. I do not want to ruin it for you." "This is my son's night," Jordan acknowledged, following her nearby child with her eyes. Watching him, her smile returned. "As long as he is happy, I will be happy. My problems will wait for another time." She thought he was funny and brave. She liked the darker blue streaks in his white hair. Approaching him from behind, she was determined to catch him by surprise while he was distracted eating a piece of sweetbread and talking with his other friends. Through the crowd, she moved slowly, taking very light steps until her little fingers were so close she could almost touch his hair. "Hi, Maska," Arrow said nonchalantly. "You heard me? How?" she retorted, flustered. He turned around and flashed a poker-faced grin. "My secret." Irritated, she shoved a small cloth pouch in his face. "Your gift." Arrow was visibly surprised. "Really? Thanks. What is it?" "Open it and see," she pouted. The boy untied the thin cord which held the little bag closed and reached inside. He pulled out a polished black taba stone the size of his index finger. It had a white symbol painted on it. Some red strokes had been added around the symbol for impressive flair. Arrow grinned, looking down at the stone in his right hand. Seeing Arrow's positive reaction boosted Maska's mood. "This is a good gift." "What is this?" Arrow asked, pointing at a symbol on the stone. "It means friend. You are my good friend," she replied, humbly. "Thank you," Arrow answered, sincerely touched. "I made a hole in it. It can be a necklace if you want," she said, handing him a necklace strap. "Yes, I do," he said, accepting the second gift. Arrow took a moment to run the strap through the hole in the taba stone and tied the ends together. Then he put on the necklace and looked at her. She nodded approvingly. "You made this, Maska?" Arrow asked. "Yes. It took 7 moons to polish it," Maska boasted. "It took 5 moons to paint it." "You honor me. I will wear it forever." Just then some of Arrow's male friends dragged him away to play games with them. But Maska savored the moment, silently basking in her best friend's praise of her handiwork. Then she ran after them. "What game will you play?" she asked. This is not a girl's game, a muscular boy named Funta scoffed. Really? Masca narrowed her eyes as if personally challenged. You should not say that, Funta, a smaller boy named Lasta interjected, tapping Funta's shoulder. Why not? Funta replied harshly. Do not say that. Trust me, Lasta added, pointing at the faint remnants of a bruise surrounding his left eye. Funta looked around at everyone, apparently looking for approval. Am I wrong? Elgit is not a girl game, Funta said more aggressively. She should not play it. She is not special. She is special. She's Masca, daughter of Zaska, Arrow announced her name as if it were a formal title. So, Funta strutted, puffing his chest, will she? Before he could finish his sentence, Masca had kicked the side of his knee, knocking him off balance. Then she threw herself directly at him, smiling all the while. Her momentum knocked them both over, and the instant they hit the ground, she drove her right elbow into his stomach. He squinted his eyes, grabbed his belly, and groaned in pain. Yes, she answered as she stood up and dusted herself off. Funta had not been seriously hurt, but in a matter of seconds she had completely humiliated him in front of his friends and every villager within eyeshot. To add insult to injury, she offered to help the large boy stand back up. He knocked away her hand and got up of his own accord. Eyes narrowed in frustration and almost fighting tears, he stormed off in the other direction. You can play with us, Masca taunted, calling after him and enjoying his discomfort. Stop, Masca. Let him go, Arrow insisted. Your daughter just made a fool of Hasp's son Funta, Jordan observed. That is not difficult, Zaska replied. Besides, Masca is the equal of any child her age. Jordan continued to marvel at Zaska's daughter. That is true, she agreed. You taught her how to defend herself well. I cannot take all the credit for that, Zaska stated. Raybon showed her many things, and she learns well from him. It was nice of her to make Arrow a gift. What inspired her to do that? She cares for your son. She would slay a Saston for him, if she knew how. Jordan balked at that. He's 5, she exclaimed. How can she like him at 5? I said she cares for him, Zaska rebutted. Not that she wants to be his mate. Jordan breathed a sigh of relief. I am glad. It's too early to be worrying about those kinds of things. I agree. Good. After a moment's consideration, Zaska chuckled. But if they are still this close in 10 or 12 cycles, I think she will become his mate. Zaska, why are you encouraging this? What am I encouraging? I am talking with my closest friend. That is all. We are mothers, and we must consider these things. Bhopal had been speaking with Chiefess Kitranor and his older sister Mitas for some time. She was slightly taller than Kitranor and also in charge of village security. How certain are these reports? Bhopal asked. 2 of my best scouts confirmed the sighting, Mitas replied. The Gulsta have increased the size of their military and are arming for battle. The chiefess looked very troubled. She paced for a moment, then stopped. If the Gulsta leaders are planning on expanding their territory through conquest, there is no question what they will do, Kitranor asserted. They will attack the Kastadi lands, and then they will come for the Makta Mountain to secure the region. I agree, chiefess. We must prepare, Mitas answered, resolute. However, her half-frown revealed her lingering concerns. I must also agree, Bhopal added. Could our scouts determine how long it will take them to fortify their forces and begin? Kitranor asked. It depends on whether they want to increase the size of their forces even further, Mitas replied. We do not know yet. Kitranor's face twisted in reaction to the dreaded news. Without looking at him, the chiefess put her hand on her son's shoulder. Bring your mate to me in the morning tomorrow. Whether she is ready or not, I must teach her how the Makta go to war. And that concludes Chapter 1.